There is a berry that stops influenza faster than antiviral drugs and boosts immunity more effectively than synthetic supplements. For 2,500 years, it prevented plagues across Europe and sustained Native American tribes through deadly winters. Then, the FDA spent decades restricting its medical claims, while pharmaceutical companies developed expensive synthetic versions. Why did they criminalize the immune system that grew in every hedgerow? Hippocrates called it his medicine chest for treating more conditions than any other plant. Roman soldiers carried dried berries on military campaigns to prevent disease. Medieval monasteries planted groves specifically for plague protection. Native American tribes harvested it ceremonially as sacred medicine that connected them to ancestral wisdom. This is elderberry, Sambucus canadensis, and Sambucus nigra. The dark purple clusters that hang from trees across temperate regions worldwide. Modern research proves these berries contain compounds that disable influenza viruses, reduce inflammation, and accelerate immune response more powerfully than pharmaceutical alternatives. Archaeological evidence from Bronze Age Europe shows systematic cultivation near settlements. Greek physicians documented its use for respiratory infections and inflammatory conditions. Roman naturalist Pliny the Elder described it treating fevers, joint pain, and epidemic diseases that swept through ancient cities. Medieval European communities relied on it during repeated plague outbreaks. Monasteries maintained extensive plantings as first-line defense against infectious diseases. Often, medicine traditions developed specific preparation methods for different ailments, passing knowledge through generations of healers who understood its power. Native American tribes across the continent used it independently for similar purposes. The Haudenosaunee called it ghost tree and harvested berries for winter immunity. Cherokee healers brewed it for respiratory ailments. Chippewa medicine people prescribed it for fever reduction and infection prevention. The active compounds responsible for immune support include anthocyanins, flavonoids, and unique proteins that directly interfere with viral replication. Modern laboratories have isolated these molecules and confirmed their effectiveness against influenza A and B strains, respiratory syncytial virus, and other common pathogens. Traditional preparation concentrated these compounds through specific processing methods. European folk medicine fermented berries into wines and syrups that preserved active ingredients while improving bioavailability. Native Americans dried them for storage or prepared fresh decoctions for immediate use during illness. But this effectiveness represented a fundamental threat to emerging medical monopolies. A medicine that grew freely in wild hedgerows could not be controlled, patented, or sold exclusively. It represented healthcare independence that challenged developing pharmaceutical business models. The systematic suppression began with the establishment of modern drug regulation. The Food and Drug Administration, created in 1906, gradually restricted health claims for botanical medicines. They demanded expensive clinical trials that small herbal companies could never afford, while exempting pharmaceutical drugs from similar proof requirements for traditional uses. Medical education shifted toward synthetic pharmaceuticals and away from botanical medicine. Doctors learned to prescribe patented drugs rather than recommend plant preparations their predecessors had used successfully for centuries. Insurance systems began covering pharmaceutical treatments while excluding herbal alternatives. The pharmaceutical industry simultaneously developed synthetic immune modulators based on compounds found naturally in these berries. They extracted active molecules, modified them chemically to create patentable versions, then marketed synthetic alternatives as superior to natural sources. By the 1950s, traditional immune support had been marginalized as folk remedy, despite documented effectiveness spanning millennia. Medical schools stopped teaching about botanical medicines. Pharmacies replaced herbal preparations with synthetic alternatives that generated higher profits through patent protection. The FDA intensified restrictions during the 1990s, classifying traditional immune claims as illegal drug marketing. Companies selling elderberry products faced prosecution for stating effects that folk medicine had recognized for thousands of years. Meanwhile, pharmaceutical companies received approval for expensive antiviral drugs with serious side effects. Modern research validates what traditional healers always knew. Studies published in the Journal of International Medical Research demonstrate significant reduction in influenza duration and severity. Clinical trials prove faster recovery times compared to pharmaceutical antivirals. Research confirms superior safety profiles with virtually no adverse effects. European physicians continue prescribing elderberry preparations as legitimate medicine. German pharmacies sell standardized extracts for immune support. Swiss research institutes study its mechanisms, while American medicine ignores botanical alternatives growing outside hospital windows. Yet the FDA maintains restrictions on health claims while approving synthetic drugs that attempt to replicate natural immune functions. Pharmaceutical companies profit from patents on modified versions of compounds these berries provide freely. The antiviral drug market generates billions annually, selling synthetic alternatives to plant medicine. Health food stores now sell elderberry supplements as dietary aids rather than medicine. Consumers navigate confusing regulations that treat synthetic immune drugs as legitimate while labeling natural alternatives as unproven remedies, despite superior safety records and equivalent effectiveness. The irony became profound during recent pandemic responses. Governments promoted synthetic interventions while discouraging natural immune support. People lined up for pharmaceutical products while the most effective immune booster grew wild in abandoned lots outside medical facilities. Emergency rooms treat influenza complications with expensive antiviral drugs, while superior natural antivirals grow unrecognized in hospital landscaping. Insurance covers pharmaceutical treatments that cost hundreds of dollars, while excluding herbal medicine that costs pennies per dose. The global antiviral drug market generates over $30 billion annually. Companies develop expensive synthetic compounds based on molecules these berries produce naturally. They patent traditional knowledge, while claiming natural sources are unreliable or insufficient. Small organic farms maintain heritage varieties for people seeking natural alternatives. Traditional medicine practitioners continue teaching preparation methods their ancestors used successfully. Community gardens grow it for families who remember its value despite regulatory discouragement. But mainstream medicine remains structured around pharmaceutical dependency. Medical schools teach synthetic immunology while ignoring botanical immune support. Doctors prescribe expensive antivirals while dismissing natural alternatives that offer superior outcomes with fewer side effects. The systematic suppression of elderberry represents how traditional healing knowledge can be criminalized when it threatens medical monopolies. It demonstrates how natural abundance can be regulated into obscurity to create pharmaceutical dependency and recurring revenue streams. The berry that stopped European plagues and sustained indigenous peoples through deadly winters still grows wild across temperate regions. It offers the same immune protection that saved countless lives throughout history. It provides natural medicine to anyone willing to harvest its gifts and resist commercial programming.